Sweet. No break. We will patch right into the big fella here. Lots to get to. As we said, basketball active now. Men's tonight on campus. Ladies tomorrow on campus. Both of those postseason action. Baseball home tonight versus Louisiana Tech before the Gators pull into town this weekend. LSU football on the spring practice field. It's a great time for the sports calendar, so let's catch up with the big fella. Glenn, good morning. How are you?
Hey, Jordy. Thanks for having me. How are you?
Always, buddy. Good to see you. All right, let's start baseball. Jay Johnson was talking yesterday, and you could sense it in his voice, and by all means, I don't think that it's time, but no seams of panic over there at the box yesterday. What did you take away of opening weekend of SEC play?
Yeah, I mean, certainly a lot of things you're going to have to talk about and get right. I think Jay was pretty poignant in his opinion yesterday that there's really no reason to worry about this pitching staff, and I don't think there's any reason to worry about them either. I mean, they were so dominant for the first month of the season, and sometimes, a team like Mississippi State that's got a lot on the line, they had kind of struggled through non-conference play, and they needed kind of a big series like this at home to kind of get their season back on track. And sometimes you got it going at the plate and you're hitting beach balls. And I think that was a good case there for those three games. LSU did not execute a lot of its, just didn't execute throughout the entirety of the series with their pitch execution. And, there's certainly some things, Mississippi State was really hunting the fastball, and they were really jumping on LSU early in counts, and it's just kind of hard to catch up after that. And they did a really nice job of kind of applying some early pressure on LSU in these games. And in that situation where we kind of expected coming in that this pitching staff would have to carry LSU through a lot of the season, you have to hope that your offense can kind of get it together as well. And I thought the offense had some good moments, but for the most part, really, it was a lot of the same. They kind of weren't able to get guys in that were on base, and they had a lot of opportunities to, but they just weren't able to come up with as many clutch hits as they probably could or would have liked. So there's certainly a lot you could take away from this weekend. I think the one positive, or maybe the biggest positive you can take away is Tommy White getting going at the plate. 3 home runs, 7 RBIs. I think he batted over 400 on the weekend. So that's a real positive for LSU as they head into the meat of their SEC schedule here. But you'd like to see, not only some other guys at the plate kind of, help carry the Tigers through, but also get back on track on the mound this weekend as well.
What are we looking for tonight?
Yeah, I mean, I think, you just kind of want a clean game. Look, Louisiana Tech is probably, one of the top, if not the top in-state school in baseball outside of LSU. So they've been pretty consistent down there under Burroughs. And so I do think that, this is going to be a challenging midweek game. They usually are against Louisiana Tech. So they're going to start with Javen Coleman on the mound. I think you're going to see a healthy dose of guys like Cam Johnson, Cade Anderson. Would imagine several of these young guys get a chance to show some stuff on the mound. And because I do think the one thing that this weekend did open up is opportunity for a lot of these young pitchers that maybe haven't gotten it to this point in the season. So they can string together some consistent outings on the mound. That might open up the door for them to see some appearances out of the bullpen this weekend as well. So, you're going to start with Javen Coleman on the mound. In the field, you like to have a clean game on defense after kind of the 6-error weekend there. You'd like to see them play pretty clean defensively, and really, I would love to just see this offense move the baseball and move guys on base, and maybe not rely so much on the home run ball, and really show that they can be that contact team that can really put pressure on teams by getting a lot of guys on base and bringing them in.
The pitching, did we make too much of it going in, or where are you coming out of last weekend? Are they still as high end as we thought, or do they need some shining before more SEC competition?
I think they're still in a pretty good spot pitching wise. I mean, I don't see, for example, Jay Johnson making any decisions in terms of replacing starters for the weekend. I do think he's pretty set on Luke Holman, Gage Jump, and Thatcher Hurd. And I think those are the three guys that you need. I'm going to steal one of Jay's quotes: is they need all three of those guys to get to where they want to go, and that was a common theme that he used last year with a couple of players. And I think that you're really going to have to rely on the starting pitching of this team, just because I think it might be a while before we see this offense maybe put it together consistently. I think you're gonna have to really rely on these arms. I mean, they've got really good arms. I mean, they've Gage Jump throws 94, 95 from the left side, and they've been building him up. Still a really young player in terms of just his experience level. Holman is a guy that has pitched in a lot of big situations last year in the SEC. But he's also he's a first. This is going to be a real step up in terms of just being the guy that they rely on to kind of get them through into the postseason and as that ace. And then of course Thatcher has pitched in some really, really big games in the postseason in Omaha, and it's just been really up and down. I think this year, just in terms of his ball placement and command has been a little bit of a question as well. So look, they I don't think that they're hitting the panic button yet. If you just listen to what Jay was saying yesterday, I think that they feel like they can still go on a pretty upwards trajectory with this pitching staff, and that they have a lot of depth. I mean, he talked about using 17 or 18 arms already this season and getting a lot of these guys some opportunities that that they wanted to see. But I do think that they have some stuff that they got to figure out, and to be in that spot where you've got Florida and Vandy and Arkansas and Tennessee is kind of your next up. We're going to learn a lot about this team here over the next 4 weeks.
That is true, man. It is going to be, as we said, it has a week filled with postseason basketball on campus. The next couple of weekends will feel like postseason baseball for Jay Johnson and LSU, with 2 or 3 of those coming right here in Baton Rouge with Florida and Arkansas. They'll travel to Knoxville to play Tennessee. All right, G, let's go to hoops tonight. North Texas is in town. No matter what happens tonight, I have sold this season for Matt McMahon as a huge success. For them to be hosting an NIT game tonight, I think is a great trajectory for year 2. What do you make of what they've accomplished and what's on the line tonight?
Yeah, I mean, we spoke with Matt yesterday, and he kind of echoed those sentiments that, look, even back in February, this team was in a bad place. They were 4-7. They were, and he even told us yesterday that they didn't really have postseason ball on their minds. They just wanted to kind of come day to day and get better. And he gave great credit to his players for kind of just sticking with it. They come off 3 straight 1-point losses or something like that. They really kind of fought. It was kind of the start of their fighting back kind of mantra that they kind of developed as the SEC schedule went on. And, then you get the big wins over, South Carolina, Kentucky, Georgia, all by 1 point. And you start to have a little bit more belief that this team could get to where they ultimately got to. And then, that's 9-9 in SEC play. I mean, that's a 7-win improvement from last year. I think it was the second biggest jump in the SEC. And, we know the SEC, they just sent 7-8 teams to the SEC tournament or to the NCAA tournament, and that's and LSU I think was just kind of the one team there that was on the outside, looking in terms of tournament, just kind of a notch below a lot of those other really, really stellar programs. So there's a lot to build on here. They've got obviously the transfer portal opened yesterday, so they're going to have to be kind of double dipping in terms of looking at next year's roster and how that could fill out, but also making sure that they can win as many games in this tournament as they can, because I do think they believe that a deep run in this tournament can continue to build some really great offseason momentum for these guys, and really I think help sell some of these younger core players that you're hoping to get back next year of why they should come back and why they should make another run to try to get into the NCAA tournament and really complete this turnaround and get LSU on a more consistent winning consistency. Much like last year, I mean, the keys to the internal squad is going to be this sophomore class, right? I mean, Tyrell Ward, Jalen Reed, and crew, get them back, huh? Yeah. I mean, Ward, Reed, I would throw in Mike Williams and Corey Chess, the freshmen from this year, and certainly you've got Damian Collins, who he's going to take a medical red shirt. I think he can be a good piece for you next year in terms of rim protection and rebounds if he can stay healthy. And you've got two really talented freshmen coming in as well. Curtis Gibbons is a guard out of Florida, and Robert Miller is the number 2 player in Texas. So they've got some talent coming in, and I think really the next couple weeks is going to be about finding some difference makers out of the transfer portal. I think you're going to see a very, very aggressive LSU in terms of the kind of the top-notch players that go in there. I think they understand they need some star power in the program, and I think they're going to be very aggressive in trying to pull that off.
What'd you make of LSU women getting the 3 seed?
Yeah, I mean, talk about a gauntlet of a regional that they're in. I mean, Iowa, UCLA, and they got to get through their own first weekend here with Rice, and then probably maybe a potential rematch with Haley Van Lith's old team. I mean, they've got a gauntlet here because I mean, if they kind of run through this first weekend, get into that Elite Eight kind of picture, you're looking at having to maybe go through Iowa and South Carolina before getting to the national championship. So, but they put this team together to kind of make this kind of run. They've got stars all across the board with their starting lineup, and I think the one concern I maybe have for this team is they only go about 6 or 7 deep. You're going to be asking these girls to play entire games or most of the entire games in high intensity situations. Can that hold up for the next 3 weeks is going to be something that I really look at. But they've got a lot of talent here. They've got it was a little bit of a surprising draw in terms of just how competitive I think that specific region of the bracket is. But I think it was probably by design. They wanted to see some competition in this tournament, and they're certainly going to get it here over the next couple weeks.
It looks like they were just trying to guarantee themselves the Caitlin Clark Angel Reese matchup. I mean, I thought for sure they try to. Yeah. I mean,
you could have made the argument they could have been a 2 seed. I also like what LSU put yesterday that after they found, or a couple days ago after they found out they were going to be a 3 seed. It sounds familiar, doesn't it? So I mean, they ran the tables yesterday or last year as a 3 seed, and but yeah, I mean, there's no question they've got a pretty hefty task ahead of them in terms of getting back to where they were last year in this tournament. Just based purely on all the teams are going to have to go through to get there.
Brian Kelly and the football team back on the Ponderosa on the practice field today from spring break. I know that you haven't seen a lot of action, very limited in what the media has been able to view up to this point. But what are some of the storylines that you were watching as LSU goes through these 15 workouts?
Yeah. So we get back to it tomorrow. We're going to get 20 minutes of individual drills, and we'll have a full practice later this weekend, which is going to be really good, I think, for the media to kind of get their eyes on this team for a full 2-hour practice or however long it goes. But just a couple things that I've been just kind of picking up on and just wanting to watch is. I think really the defensive line, and particularly on the interior, is going to be something that we're going to be watching closely. I know that's probably no different than a lot of the guests you've had on here over the last couple of weeks and what you guys have talked about. But they really have got to figure out just how many guys that they feel like they can rely on come fall, and let that dictate how aggressive they want to be in the second portal window when it opens after the spring. So certainly interior defensive line. I'm going to be interested, honestly, to see how they rotate these linebackers. I mean, you've got obviously Harold Perkins now working on the inside with Greg Penn and Whit Weeks and Wes Weeks. I think that's probably, in terms of talent, maybe your deepest room, just in terms of like numbers and trying to get all those guys to kind of fit together. I mean, we had a lot of fans and media. We're clamoring for a lot of Whit Weeks last year, and because of Greg Penn and Omar Spates, he was kind of that third linebacker that maybe didn't get to see the field as consistently as many would have wanted. So how they kind of rotate those 3 guys in this year at inside linebacker is going to be very interesting to watch over spring practice. And then the other one I'll flip it to the offensive side of the ball. The one that I'm really, really keen in on is Caleb Jackson. I think this has got to be really his big breakout offseason, and LSU is going to have to rely on him in a big, big way this year. And I think he's poised to do some great things if he develops the right way. Obviously, with him and Josh Williams, those are the only two scholarship backs on the roster this spring. So there's going to be no shortage of opportunities for those two guys to kind of establish their roles here in this offense. But the development of the run game, and in particular Caleb Jackson's development, are going to be really, really key to LSU having the success they want on offense.
Can you put into perspective what Brad Davis is doing, has done to the offensive line here? I know that we have talked about this and beat this down, and we have given our opinion on this show, but bring in somebody who's, got the inside track and has the relationships here. Brad Davis, I mean,
yeah.
Can you explain what he's doing?
Yeah, an elite developer and an elite recruiter, and just kind of they go hand in hand there. And look, I think probably the biggest thing that helped LSU coming out was hitting on Will Campbell, Emory Jones, Miles Frazier, Garrett Dellinger. Having that core foundation in place for the last 3 years has really allowed LSU to kind of build up the depth and develop the depth behind them. Having those consistent starters to where they're not dipping into the portal and having to use portal spots to try to find plug holes on the starting offensive line. It's really allowed LSU to recruit the way they want to recruit all these positions, which is through freshman classes, and they have probably the best recruiter and developer of talent in the country in Brad Davis. I mean, I don't think there's any offensive line coach out there that's doing it as consistently as Davis is. I mean, I think you're going to see all four of these guys that have been starting for LSU the last couple of years. They could all potentially be drafted in mid rounds or higher next year in the draft, and then you kind of hand it off to the next group in line, and they've recruited really, really well. They brought in 6 for this 2024 class. They've got 3 for the 2025 class, including one of the top interior linemen, and Devin Harper, who's the top offensive lineman in Louisiana. So he's just been doing a bang up job, and I think the one consistent that we talk with all these players, kind of during spring and fall, and the one consistent is that we all hear is that he knows how to tap into each individual player's mindset and how to kind of get the best out of each individual player. And I think that, from a teaching perspective, it's just really, really rare for a coach to be able to kind of unlock what, kind of gets a player going and kind of gets his development in an upward trajectory pretty quickly.
How good do you expect that unit to be this year?
They're going to have to be really, really good. I mean, you don't have the kind of the safety net of Jaden Daniels' legs and just kind of being able to, when things go awry in the backfield, it's just kind of dart for 15, 20, 30, or 80 yards in some cases. I mean, he was an offensive machine all by himself, and so I think you're going to have to really, hone in on the pass protection there with Garrett Nussmeier. I mean, Nuss can extend plays a little bit, but even Nuss extending plays, he's still looking to pass. He's not looking to get out of the pocket or really get downfield. He's going to be looking to pass downfield on those plays. So, making sure he's well protected. I don't think he was sacked in that Wisconsin game, for example. So they did a nice job in the bowl game. That's a good start there. But really, the run game, I think, is where you want to see the most development from them. Brian Kelly's talked about it. LSU's going to be more diverse with their running. They're going to try more outside zone, more perimeter runs, more power, and to try to free up some of the running lanes for these backs. And I think they're going to try to use these athletic offensive linemen to try to pull and open up some consistent running lanes. And if they're able to do that, and Caleb Jackson develops the way that they want, then I think you're looking at another really, really consistently good offense that can push the ball down the field and have some really, really great balance in scoring a lot of points come 2024.
You at Alec Box tonight? You in the Maravich Center? How you split your time?
I will be in the Maravich Center watching the men's basketball team try to get a postseason win and advance in the tournament. We're going to send our guy Bryce Kuhn over to baseball tonight, so we'll have everything covered for sure. But I will be in the PMAC. 247
has you covered. Big Glen West does it as good as anyone. Make sure and follow him on social media at Glen West 21. You can catch him here time to time, giving us his knowledge. But make sure and follow the crew.